course, the present would also reminisce a bit because this tour you have embarked upon is called Finale. It's the farewell tour.
Yes.
But every time you've talked about this, there are some caveats. You say this is kind of a farewell tour, but that doesn't mean that you're going to stop playing altogether.
No, I mean, first of all, it's not up to me, unfortunately, about when I stop playing, because what I have, which you can look up, I recommend the Anthony Mason piece on CBS Saturday morning, which is online, where I go through the whole description of what it is and when and all that stuff. But it's IBM, inclusion body myositis. And so it's a slow-moving muscle degenerative disease, but it changes speed sometimes, and it accelerates, then it plateaus. And I'm sort of in between the two right now. So the thing is that I would never ever want to stop playing live. You know, that's my passion. That's the payoff for me. Is always, I love being on stage and creating with my band. You know, from nowhere. You know, so. Yeah, the thing is, I have to be realistic and say that I can't tell you, anybody, when that time will be, well, I'll have to hang it up. So, because, and I've said this before, but the reason that we made this, the finale, the farewell tour, is because I realized that things were getting to the point where things were changing a little bit. It's not affecting my playing right now. Little tiny things, you know, that I feel, but nothing, you know, I feel at the top of my game. So that's why I was all ready to go out with Alice Cooper. We were going to co-headline for the whole summer. I had to call Alice, who's a dear friend, and tell him what was going on. And so we decided to make this right now. So if I can continue next year, I'll be the first to shout it from the treetops, you know, because as I said, that's my passion. So.
Well, some artists have been like putting together farewell tours for like forever. I think Kiss are probably on their like 5th farewell tour. So
no, I think the Who have more.
Oh yeah, pretty good. But this has, you know, as you said, it's not something you chose, but it kind of forced you into, I'm guessing, a bit of like self-reflection, because you have to, you know, you're putting on this farewell tour, which is, by all accounts, going to be a greatest hits tour. You know, you kind of have to, you know, play all the great songs. So you had to look back at your career, and I was wondering what you found.
Well, as far as the material, we're mixing it up every night, because when the tour first got announced, I saw that people were saying, oh, I'm coming to Boston, Toronto, whatever, you know, all these like 6 places. And I thought, oh my goodness, well, we've got to mix it up song-wise. So I went back and listened to, you know, all my early solo records, everything I played on, and just came up with some numbers that I know not only we love to do, but sound great on stage. So, yeah, we went back to Even When We Change. We do the Lodger occasionally, Fig Tree Bay, things I've never done in a while for, you know, 10, 15 years.
So did you have like while putting together this show, did you go through like all the albums and just try to, and even rediscover songs that you know, as you said, you hadn't played in years, and maybe you thought they were worth like including?
Yes, I went through just about everything, but there's certain songs that just of the ones we haven't done that just cry out for, well, we did do that once and it was good, so let's do that again, you know. As well as it being, there's a good record and there's a good stage number.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're both, you know, it's a great record and it's great to do live. Some recordings don't come off as well live because they've got like a million things on them. You know, that's why the Beatles stopped touring so they could have an orchestra.
Yeah.
You know.
Nobody could hear the arrangements.
No.
You know.
Yeah. So, but yeah, we dug deep, and of course we've got we do a 2 or 3 number set from all blues as well.
You just said something very interesting. You said there are good songs, you know, and there are good, you know, live songs.
Mm-hmm.
You happen to be known, like, there are good records and good live songs. You happen to be known for a live album. You know?
Right.
They're the most known record in all of everything you put out is a live record.
Mm-hmm.
Which is not completely live. This record, you know, it changed, you know, the history of rock music in a lot of ways because it made live albums a thing.
Yes.
But there was some more. There's a lot of stories around it. There was some work done afterwards. There was I want to get from you. You know, how much live is Frampton Comes Alive? You know.
Well, it's all live. For the only things we replaced, or well, not replaced,
Yeah.
we put on were, there was like on Show Me the Way, there was only one mic for my guitar amp, and I was not playing out of this amp, so they forgot to move the mic over to here, so there was no rhythm.
Yeah.
So I put that on. Bob Mayo's piano on Go to the Sun was so he had to, and he did it masterfully. It just wasn't there, you know.
Yeah.
So that's about it. You can't replace the vocals or the guitars because the audience is so loud. You'd hear it. You'd hear 2 different solos or voices.
So it's pretty much as if, you know, if we were at the concerts back then.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what we heard.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Were you surprised because it continued, you know, as I said, it made history, one of the best-selling live albums of all time. Are you still to this day surprised that it was...
Brooks, I tell you.
It's okay. Well, in our hearts, you're still the biggest
Don't
selling.
print that. He's a good friend, I'm joking.
Yeah, but are you still to this day surprised that because they're a mixed bag live albums. Sometimes they're terrible, you know,
Right.
and sometimes like artists really shine. Is it normal for you that it was this album that made you so famous? Because live, I'm guessing, you know, being on a stage is one of the things you enjoy the most.
Yes, well, it was really a carbon copy of what happened with Humble Pie 5 years earlier. We were touring in the United States, and we went home after a tour and did the Rock On album, which was the first album which was before the Fillmore album, live album, and that really sort of brought us up, you know. And now we were not opening; we were in the middle spot live and stuff like that. And then when the live album hit, it was the decision to do the live album for Humble Pie was, well, we need to give them what they're going crazy over. It's like there's certain bands I think that, like the Who, they make great records, but it's nothing like when you see them live. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And Humble Pie were like that. I'm a bit like that, and I think that's why the live album. We got the idea from the Humble Pie one being the 5th album of Humble Pie, and then A&M, thank you, Jerry Moss and Herb, that they stuck with me for 4 years until Comes Alive came out. But after the Frampton album, which was sort of like the Rock On album, it brought me up into the public awareness more, and so we just looked at each other and said, you know, it was a foregone conclusion that it was the same kind of feeling we had, you know, for Humble Pie.
Yeah. I'm gonna jump ahead like from 1976, like 43 years onward. But you mentioned Humble Pie, and one of the early influences, I'm guessing, was like blues music was really important to you. You just recently, just a few weeks ago, put out like a new album made entirely of blues covers. It's called All Blues.
Right.
So this is really coming back full circle to the origins of your playing.
Yes, well, it's actually, when I joined Humble Pie, I was more of not a jazzer, but I was trying to go the opposite way from blues, because everybody was sounding like, you know, Peter Green, Eric Clapton, and it was the thing to do. And it's a very seductive, blues is wonderful, I love it. And there's so many phenomenal blues players to learn from, you know. So I just decided at that point, before I joined Humble Pie, to maybe I'll go on the jazz side for a little bit. And because the first album my dad played me was Django Reinhardt's Best Of, you know, so which I thought was awful. And my kids, when I first played it to my kids, they said, "Oh, Dad's playing that silent movie music again." So, but me, you know, the story is that I had the Shadows album, their first album, and I got all the hit singles because they were like the instrumental Beatles before the Beatles. Canada knows more about the Shadows than America does. So, once they came out, that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to play that kind of music. But yeah, it's I've sort of lost the thread here.
But we were like the idea of going back to the roots of
Yes.
this music with an album of all blues covers.
Yeah. So when I joined Humble Pie, I was listening to Wes Montgomery, Kenny Burrell, and Joe Pass, and people, Kenny, and a very young George Benson. And then Steve and I get together, and I listen to all he's listening to, and he's listening to Taj Mahal, you know, and Muddy Waters, and it was just very intriguing to now, at that point, go into the blues. And even so, he was more gutsy, bluesy player, and I was a more lyrical player. But I think that's where my guitar style came.
Yeah.